Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of London, 501 Nelson Street. And thanks to Kate for coming up and adding to our expression of the Spirit. Today's Father's Day, and we honor all of our fathers, our grandfathers, stepfathers, physical fathers, and spiritual fathers. And thanks to Lorraine, who put together that beautiful slide presentation that you just saw. We welcome you home. And our home at Unity of London has many qualities that we hope to live, that we hope to be, not just in this building, but outside our building. And those qualities you see on screen, qualities of love, of joy, of kindness. And if you were walking into someone's home, their physical home, isn't that what you would want to see, what you would want to feel? And our goal is that when you walk in here, you feel it. You are able to be curious, to grow at Unity of London, to express yourselves. And as we connect with each other, we grow into transforming our spirit, to transforming ourselves. We evolve peace by being peaceful, by continuing to nurture that inner spirit of tranquility. And we believe that Unity of London, like unities all over the world, are positive paths to spiritual living. Welcome home to Unity of London. If you're brand new, if you're a guest, if you see us online, we welcome you to come and join us in person. We do have 5 basic Unity principles, and they used to be short form. And we decided for a while to bring them back into sentence formation. If you want to join with me in reading them, if you can see them, please do so. Don't have to, just think about them. God is all good and active in everything, everywhere. I am naturally good because God's divinity is in me and in everyone. I create my experiences by what I choose to think, what I feel, and believe. Through affirmative prayer and meditation, I connect with God and bring out the good in my life. I do my best by living the truth. I know I make a difference. Those are Unity principles, not just on paper, but in living form. We are the change by inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. And when we do it, when we feel it, when we live it, we inspire others. That's exciting. That's an opportunity. How do we coexist? How do we practice the inclusion and the diversity that is such an essential part of Unity of London? We provide fellowship and education to speakers, to seekers, to members from all walks of life. And today, Sylvia Vanderhook will be our prayer chaplain in the little prayer room. You just go up the orange steps and she'll be there waiting to greet you. And if she's not in the prayer room, you'll see her walking around in the fellowship room. And online will be our dear Wilda. This is a song that many of us really enjoy. And it came mostly to our attention from Jack Van Diepen. So please feel free to join in about our release song. You can stand if you want. You don't have to, but if you want.
There was a time in my life I thought I'd have to do it all for myself. didn't know the grace of God was sufficient, and I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you got to let it go. Let it all go. And this is what you have to say. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, Friday, with my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only. Oh, I release, yeah. Let the Spirit and my life and my heart. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, my brother, with my faith, see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Hey, I release, hey, and I let go. I let the Spirit from my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. Brother, with my faith, see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yeah.
The message is fabulous. We're used to a little bit revved up tempo, but that's okay. Sometimes releasing takes time. We do have our prayer chest and opportunities for you to send out loving energy to people in your life. Those who are important, those who you feel are in need. If you wish, you can write a name on the paper. And that writing is symbolic. It's saying that that person is in your mind and in your heart. They are collected at the end of every month by Don Briglio, who sends them on to our prayer chaplains. And our prayer chaplains then pray over them. And by praying over them, meaning we affirm the good of all those whose names are on that list. I invite you now, if you feel comfortable, to close your eyes, to relax into your chairs, to breathe in a spirit of harmony and openness. Openness to the divine presence within you. Openness to the divine presence within everybody in this room, everybody in our community, everybody in the world. We hold in loving affirmation today, Unity Center of Winnipeg, Manitoba, and Unity Christ Center of Truth in Etobicoke. We hold in a special place in our hearts and minds all fathers, stepfathers, grandfathers, single fathers, spiritual fathers, anyone who has filled a role in the life of someone else with strength, with tenderness, with empathy, with honesty. We affirm the wisdom and the discernment, the perseverance of all fathers, fathers in refugee camps across the world, fathers right here in London who may be homeless, fathers whose challenges may seem insurmountable. We affirm their strength, their love, and our appreciation and infinite gratitude. We affirm the courage of new and soon to be dads. Women gain a lot of attention on Mother's Day. Sometimes fathers not so much on Father's Day. And whatever your experiences with your own dads may have been, we honor the fact that our lives are here thanks in part to our fathers. We are grateful. We're appreciative. And we say, Amen. Our platform assistant today is Nancy Youngson, who will both read the daily word and introduce our superb father guest speaker.
Father's blessing. I bless my father with loving thoughts of gratitude. Today I bless my father and the father figures I have known with thoughts of love and appreciation. The man I call father may or may not be related to me, but he has touched my life with love. I give thanks for those fatherly figures who selflessly gave their time and love to help me grow to the person I am today. Their demonstrations of patience showed me how to give others space and time. Their humor and lightheartedness told me not to take myself too seriously. Their guidance and trust encouraged me to be independent and trust myself. I would not be the person I am today without the lessons of love and wisdom shared by my father and the father figures. In so many ways, these father figures gave me a strong foundation on which to build my life. I am grateful and blessed with all that they have given me. From Matthew 15:4, honor your father. So, Jim, no stranger. I went on Jim's Facebook page. Here's the list. His musical career began in kindergarten, rhythm band, 60 years since his first paid gig as a rock and roll musician. And Carlin says, don't you think you should be better by now? 50 years since the recording of his first and only studio album, 45 years since he and Carlin were married, 45 years since they went on the road performing together, 35 years since he started appearing regularly on radio, 30 years since he was hired by CJBK and began the golden years of media, 25 years since his first heart attack and the resulting near-death experience. His book is in the library. So it's come back to life. It's a great read. 20 years since he started writing seriously, and he has published 5 fiction and 2 nonfiction books. And the last one being a year ago, or more than a year ago, a couple of years ago, Battle of the Bands, about our London music scene. And most gratefully we are for you, Jim, for your latest having the music here on Wednesday nights. It is just amazing. If anybody hasn't come, it's so good. I can come really tired and I just leave like, woohoo. So we are very honored to have you as a speaker on this Father's Day. Welcome, Jim.
Better pick up the mic. Colleen wants to make sure I can be heard there. Can I be heard now? And I'm actually going to rearrange some things here. So work with me for a second. I want to do this. I need to do this because I owe you all an apology for starters. Those of you who've seen my musical act will know that I generally apologize at the beginning of it for having a music stand in front of me. And I note, and Nancy noted that this summer is the 60th, in about 2 weeks is the 60th anniversary of my first paid musical job. And for 55 of those years or thereabouts, I didn't have a music stand in front of me because I didn't need one. I don't read music, had a pretty good memory. I could remember the lyrics and I could remember the chords and the changes and the melodies and all that. And about 5 years ago, I turned 70 and, well, you know, those of you who've been there, you know what I'm talking about. The memory just isn't what it used to be. So I apologize in my musical act and I apologize for this, but I don't, I have talked about this subject. And I mean, talked like this at churches and at conventions and conferences and service clubs and puppy wrestles and almost anything you can think of over the last 25 years. I tried to calculate it the other day, and it's at least 250 times I've done this. And for 248 of them, I didn't have any notes. And the 249th and 250th got to be a little problematic because I found I was forgetting things, important things. So if I beg your indulgence for me using this here, just in case I get sidetracked. There are things I want to make sure I don't forget, things that are important that I want to share with you today. Take the top off the water, Jim, so you don't have to stop and do that. Okay, have a quick sip. No, I'm I'm laboring under quite a load today, I must tell you. I performed yesterday for our own Peggy Matzer for the seniors organization that she's involved with, and at Grosvenor Lodge, and it was quite a wonderful day. It's beautiful sunshine, lots of people, and I did the show that I do when I go to mostly to retirement homes these days. I work several times a month in retirement homes, and I just love it. And there was a gentleman there who introduced me, and he introduced me as the London's living legend, Jim Chapman. Now, how do you follow that? And now today, Pauline, God bless her, I love Pauline. Superb, she says. So there's no pressure on me today. All I have to be is superb, but that's okay. I want to, I'm going to share the story with you. I don't want to go over time. I can see the clock here, but I'm going to talk about something that began in the morning of October 14th. I don't even know, need those. On the morning of October 14th, 1999, I had a heart attack, a fatal heart attack. And I say fatal because my heart had stopped beating and showed no particular desire to function again ever. And during the several minutes that the ER team tried to resuscitate me and restart it, I had what is usually referred to as a near-death experience. And I've certainly referred to it that way too for years. But I have to say that after some years of reflection, I don't much care for that term anymore. When your heart stops and your brain waves flatten and you still experience some kind of consciousness beyond that point, I don't think that's a near death experience. I think that's a life after death experience. And I think we should talk about it that way in that context. Because what happened to me, for whatever physical or metaphysical reasons, offered me the opportunity to look beyond the veil, that veil that normally obscures almost everything beyond our own immediate senses. And it revealed to me in a way so very profound that our concept that the physical death of our bodies is the end of existence is quite simply wrong. It's just wrong. Having personally lived through such a shift in reality, I have no reluctance in making that claim. There is a consciousness beyond that we experience every day, and we should and we must rejoice that the best of who we are does not disappear from the universe simply because our earthly bodies are no more. I have faith, my sisters and brothers, and I know that because we are all part of a much greater whole, an all-encompassing whole, our journey towards enlightenment will and does continue past the boundaries we think we see. I've written about my after-death experience in newspapers and magazine articles and in 2 different books, the second of which, as Nancy noted, is available for sale in our Unity bookstore, and with, by the way, 100% of the purchase price going to Unity. I've also been interviewed on the Discovery, CTV, TVO, ABC, BBC broadcast networks, and I've lectured about this all across Ontario and the United States, from New York to Dallas and to Seattle. I was compelled, I'm still compelled to talk about it because I truly believe in the truth of what I experienced. I really do. I hadn't expected what would happen to happen, but it did. And I'm so pleased. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. The story is a long one and it's involved, and I'm not going to try to share it all with you today, though I do urge you to buy a copy of the book. It is in the bookstore. It will help Unity in our fundraising efforts. And I've been told more than once that it's worth the read. And who am I to argue with such enlightened individuals? I did eventually, as the book title says, come back to life. And during my recovery, I spent a lot of time thinking about what had happened to me and whether or not there was a rational explanation for it. The need for a quiet recovery can provide a rare opportunity to set aside the burdens of everyday life. For a while, you're free to be a human being rather than a human doing. We're always so busy. It wasn't always easy for me to do that. I'm not built that way, but I learned to relax at least some of the time and just enjoy the wonderful gift of life, second chance that I had been given. Under these circumstances, it took me a while to sort everything out, but I came to believe that turning the things I'd learned into clear, concise expressions of individual things worth remembering would be the key to making the most of what I'd been blessed to learn. And I was right. And I should interject here for a moment. I'm making reference here to learning things, and that was part of my near-death experience. And as I say, it is in the book in detail, but in essence, as I stood on the other side in a very real, a reality that was very tangible to me, I was suffused. I think that's the right word. I'm not sure I've used that word before, but that's really it. I was suffused with this sense that not only that I was part of the whole universe, but I was plugged into the knowledge of the universe. And I came away from that with a whole new experience and a whole new appreciation of what life really means. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to talk about a little more here. That experience. I don't know how long it took. It seemed to me like it was 15 or 20 minutes. In fact, on this side of the veil, it was 5 or 6 minutes. So I can't say how long, because time obviously is subjective, but that's what I'm talking about here. And as I was thinking about it afterwards and organizing my memories and my thoughts, a number of things stood out to me. They kind of coalesced around these little key thoughts. And I started to think of them as lessons learned, things that I learned from the specific lessons that I was given, I was blessed to receive. They weren't the results of a lifetime of spiritual searching, as such revelations sometimes are. Although I've certainly gone through that. I've spent a great deal of my life wondering, as we all do, about who and why. But instead, they're the distillation of the memories of what I experienced on the other side. While the ER people worked away desperately trying to start a heart that didn't want to start again. There's a story there too, really short. I'll take a really short sidestep here. I had a very bad, serious heart attack. It wasn't an infarction. I had an aneurysm, aortic aneurysm, and they kill you pretty quick. And I died in the hospital. They managed to get me to the hospital, to the ER, and I died on the ER table there. And as the story went later on, because when I was assembling information for my books, the 2 books I've written about this, The one that's over here for sale, by the way. I got a chance to interview the doctor, the ER doctor who was there and resuscitated me, and two of the nurses who were there. And the story I got was that they had worked on me for a while, and they'd given me the paddle several times, and I was doing the little paddle dance that we've all seen on TV and in the movies. We kind of torturing it. I had no knowledge of that at all. I was somewhere else. I wasn't here, but they had given up. The doctor said I was ready to call it because you were not coming back. And one of the young nurses said something to the effect of, "Oh, let's try once more. Can we try once more?" He's on the radio, and my mom really likes him. We got to try once more. And they did. And oh, thank you. They did. And I came back. But as I said, I have digressed. So as I spent those months recovering and thinking about what had happened, because I'm the kind of guy, I want to understand what's going on in my life, in the world. I've never been able to sit back and just let things roll by. I want to know what's happening. And I wanted to know what had happened to me and see if I could make some sense out of it and perhaps extract something that would be of use to someone else. So I thought, I went through it all. As I said, I finally came up with 10, turned out to be 10. I didn't aim at 10. It could have been 9 or 11 or 13, but it was 10. What I called lessons learned, the things that sort of clarified my life for me, the things that I needed to think about and rethink about. And I do. I return to them on a very regular basis. It was only years later when I first became, not even when I first became of unity, that's not true, became aware of unity. When I became aware of this unity, this congregation, this place, this group of people. And I started to absorb unity in a way that I really hadn't done before. I was struck by the similarity of my lessons learned to what we believe in unity, the guiding principles that we try to live our lives by. And I know these lessons will sound very familiar to anyone who is familiar or has even a passing relationship with unity's teachings. As I share them with you this morning, I'm sure you see why I feel so very blessed to have finally found unity and the peace that I have found inside its doors, and the wonderful new family that I've found there too. When we began talking about perhaps having me come up here on the platform without a guitar, that's easy. This is a little tougher. I started to go back over those lessons to see what would I talk about. Now, as I said, I've done 200 or 300 presentations about the actual experience. And maybe someday in the future, maybe I will do one here about that too. But I didn't want to do that today because it's Father's Day for one thing. And I was looking for, well, as we say in the biz, an angle. I wanted an angle on the story. As an old news guy, you're always looking for the angle on the story, the thing that will bring it to life, that will connect it to your audience. So I did that, and it was different somehow. And as I read through them, I cannot explain. I'd never noticed this before, and I have no idea why I hadn't noticed this. I had heard versions of many of the same things earlier in my life from my father. Now, why I had not had that revelation, why I hadn't realized that before, I have no idea. I don't know. But the reality is that I did have that epiphany, and that set me on the course to come and talk to you today and straightened out in my mind what I would talk about. My father, he was up here a few minutes ago in his flight suit, his World War II flight suit, one of my favorite pictures of him. My dad was my hero for a whole lot of reasons. I won't go into them today, but he really was my hero. He was a high school dropout because of the Depression. He had to drop out of school and help put food on the table for the family. He was a World War II combat vet. He was a father of 3, and he spent much of his working life as a salesman for Christie Bread. He drove the bread truck and dropped the bread off at the stores. He and my mother had, I hope, a full life. They certainly had a happy life, and they raised 3 pretty good kids, I think. And when he died too young at 70 and mom at 69, they'd been married for more than 40 years. My dad was quiet, and thoughtful, and also in a very unassuming way. And in a way that I think if I'd ever said this to him, which I didn't, if I'd said this, I think he just would have laughed and shrugged it off. He wouldn't have, I'm not sure he would have truly appreciated the absolute truth of this comment, is that he's one of the wisest people I've ever known. Though it's only really over the last couple of decades that I've fully, completely come to recognize that in him and to see just how wise he was. And going back over this again and having, as I said, I use that word again, that epiphany, that sudden, oh my gosh, what a surprise, realization that so much of what I got and wrote about from my post-life experience, my dad had already talked to me about in different contexts at different times. So here now are my 10 lessons learned I want to share with you. And I'm acknowledging my dad as I go along in the ways that I now see that he was tied into, not all of them, but most of them. Number one is, this is for all of us unity folk, each of us is part of a much greater consciousness than our own, one that surrounds and permeates everything with love and peace. It didn't just create the universe, it is the universe, and we are in it and of it as it is in us and of us. The highest manifestation of our natures, our search for the meaning of life, is also a search for the best part of ourselves. Number two, because we are all part of the fabric of the universe, both created and creators, we are truly brothers and sisters. It's only an illusion that we exist separate from each other. It's just an illusion. It's not real. And that falsehood, I believe, lies at the very heart of most of the pain and sadness and misery of the human condition. When we love and care for one another, we're also loving and caring for ourselves and manifesting the universal love that surrounds us all. I never asked my father for any help that he did not willingly supply. I never heard anyone else ever ask him for a genuinely needed helping hand without him extending one, just because he believed it was the right thing to do. He didn't preach love and acceptance and caring for others. He sure practiced it. Number three, our prayers connect us to ourselves as much as they do to the spiritual plane. Prayer is both a window through which we communicate with the divine and a mirror that reflects back to us our deepest needs. I think that's a very important thing to remember. It doesn't go just one way. Number four, those who fear mortality, who fear dying, misunderstand it. An unwarranted fear of death can make us act as though avoiding it for as long as possible is life's ultimate goal, and it is not. It reduces the true value of what life has to offer and builds unnecessary obstacles. We don't need them in the way of our happiness. We can choose to live frightened of dying, or we can find joy in seeing death for what it really is, a transition, just a transition from one existence to, in my experience, an even better one. And we can live free of fear. My dad flew many dangerous anti-sub combat patrols over the North Sea in World War II, often in terrible weather conditions in the dead of winter, knowing every time that he might not come back. Lots of his comrades in Coastal Command were shot down or simply disappeared into the dark Arctic night. As I grew older, I came to fully understand just how dangerous those missions were. I've always been a history fan, a history buff, and I've read a lot about World War II, and I found some books not that long ago about Coastal Command that I'd never seen, and reading those just drew this into an incredible picture in my mind. It's hard for me to imagine these guys getting into one of those old crates even once and flying out over the North Sea in the middle of the winter for 14 hours looking for U-boats. And if you found one, a lot of people don't realize this, in the latter part of the war, if you found a U-boat, you didn't just fly over and drop a depth charge. They had 40 millimeter anti-aircraft guns on them, and they would stand their ground. And they shot down a fair number of planes, just like my dad's. I came to understand how dangerous those missions were. And I asked him once, not long before he died, how he had faced the idea of death being constantly just waiting over the horizon. What he said to me was, a good man does what needs to be done and leaves the rest to God. Yeah. Yeah. Don't be worrying about it. Number 5, we all have days when it's easy to succumb to desperation, depression, and doubt. These are the times when we're challenged to fight our greatest battles, and we must remember that our most effective weapon is laughter. Laughter, one of our most precious gifts. We're all much stronger than we imagine we are, and part of that strength is our God-given ability to laugh at the world, and particularly to laugh at ourselves. Though he was never diagnosed because it wasn't really acknowledged as a major problem until many years later, I believe my dad suffered from PTSD. And I'm convinced that the stresses of his wartime service, for which, by the way, he volunteered at 27, married and with a young child, he could easily have stayed home. But he didn't. He felt there's duty to be done, and he accepted that duty, and off he went at 27. I believe that the stresses of those experiences led to his premature death in a family where his father and grandfathers and great-grandfathers had all lived to a ripe old age, late earlies into their 90s, well into their 90s, and Dad died just not long after he turned 70. He had to work hard all his life. He was just one of those guys. Sometimes struggled with depression and worse, especially after the war, right in the years right after the war. He faced personal tragedies too. He lost his father and mother. He lost a brother. He lost a daughter. And he had a heart attack that not only damaged his body, but derailed his dreams for the future. And even so, he was almost always positive and upbeat and smiling. And Carlin will tell you this. He loved Carlin and she loved him. He was just one of those guys, you know. When he saw that the world was getting me down, he'd often say, "Illegitimatæ non carborundum, son," which is supposedly Latin for "don't let the bastards grind you down." It isn't really, but it's good advice all the same. And it always made me smile. However bad I was feeling, it always made me smile. That was my dad. Number 6, being able to help someone in need is one of life's most profound joys. And asking for help when we need it is offering a gift of opportunity, a gift to someone, not a burden of obligation. When my dad passed, I was honored to give the eulogy at his funeral. And I remember saying, because was one of the things I really remembered about him, that although he never had much in the way of material goods, he was a bread salesman with 3 kids. He was always ready to give the shirt off his back to anyone in need without hesitation and always with a smile. When someone asked something of him, he didn't see it as a burden, but as an opportunity to be of service to others. And when he needed help himself, which wasn't very often, he was never afraid to ask, and he always got it. He always got it because the universe is reciprocal. We talk about that, maybe not in those terms, but the universe is reciprocal. Karma is a real thing. Number 7, attitude is more useful than assets in conquering adversity. Possessions and status and fancy cars and big houses don't really define who we are, and they certainly don't define how successful our lives really are. My father never amassed a lot of worldly goods. He was just a hardworking blue-collar guy. But he loved his family and a few close friends, and he cherished those who loved him, and he let them know. Money's only money, son. Never forget, the love of your family and friends is the only real treasure there is. Yeah, you're right, Dad. Number 8, and this is a key one for me, one that in a sense combines and transcends all the others. I'm reading the lessons more than what Dad told me because I want to make sure I don't slip on them. And they are in the book, so you can check me up if you felt like that. This one, number 8, in a sense, combines and transcends all the others. Establishing contact with the universal presence within us is the first step towards an understanding of our purpose on this earth. But the search for a higher power in our lives must take place, can only take place where they are lived, where our lives are lived in the here and now. Regretting the past and fearing the future waste and rob us of the wonderful gift of the present. The closest we can ever come to directly controlling what happens to us is in the actions we take in the here and now. And anything beyond that, fretting about what happened yesterday, wondering about what will happen, or worrying, even worse, about what will happen tomorrow, is strictly in Spirit's hands and should be left there. Leave the worrying to the collective spirit of us all. We can handle it. We must also be mindful of the importance of nurturing and cherishing the now for another reason. The future may never arrive. There are no guarantees of life beyond this moment, so we must always make the most of it, always make the most of it. That is how we best honor this wonderful gift of life we've been given. That doesn't absolve us from the responsibility of making prudent plans for the future. That's only common sense. And if it does arrive, when it arrives, the future becomes the gift of today and should be honored as such. But we can only do so much to prepare for it. For our own good, we must learn when to stop thinking about tomorrow and start concentrating on living today. We human beings are always subject to the danger of becoming intellectual time travelers, spending too much time in our minds in the past and in the future. And every minute we spend worrying about future problems or dwelling on past failures is, as I said a moment ago, stolen from the present, from our real lives. Dry up here. There's another thing we must remember as we go through the days of our lives. Not the soap opera, our real days of our life. Seeking to put the most into them and get the most out of them. Whatever happens, happens. There's another expression of my dad's. Whatever happens, happens. We have to deal with it. We have no choice. And we must always be prepared. We must be prepared. We must have the courage, find the courage to be prepared to meet the future calmly and with courage, because it's coming whether we like it or not. We must remember there are no Viking warriors coming out of the storm to destroy the lives of all they meet, and that doesn't happen anymore. And given the bountiful nature of the society in which we live, it's unlikely we'll ever find ourselves starving on the street, no matter how much our personal luck may sour. That knowledge should remind us that even the worst personal disasters that come our way are not likely to destroy us unless we let them. If we respond to adversity without losing our cool, we're much more likely to weather it successfully. Challenges to our health are not exempt from this principle, though they may indeed actually lead to the end of our lives. One of my goals in this talk and in my life is to assure you and the people around me that the end of what we know as this existence is merely the beginning of something entirely new and almost certainly wonderful. Armed with that knowledge, we can face even the most daunting crises in our lives with the calm assurance that this too shall pass. Now, my dad had lived through tough times during the Depression and the war. And although he did talk to me about them, he never dwelled on them. Although, honestly, he was a worrier at times, something else I inherited from him. He knew very well that tomorrow would bring whatever it brought, and we would deal with it then because we had no choice, and we would make the most of it. He more than once told me that there was only ever one real day. Yesterday was dead and gone. Tomorrow was an unknown. And the only thing we could be sure of is that we are free to make whatever we will of the only day we have, the only day we have to work with, and that's today. Lesson 9, though it's sometimes hard to admit because of the responsibilities it places on us, our lives are shaped more by our responses to events than by the events themselves. If we choose to be positive in our daily outlook, we can strip them of their potential power to hurt us. Or as Dad said, when life throws you a curveball, son, you don't have to swing. Just hang in there, keep smiling till you get the pitch you want. Then you smack that son of a gun right out of the park and laugh your way around the bases. I love that. It paints such a wonderful picture to me. You don't have to swing at the curveballs. Number 10, we must always be on guard against becoming so busy earning the money to buy roses that we don't take the time to smell them. Dad worked hard, very hard, all his life. Like me, he had a massive heart attack at a very inconvenient time, and then a long recovery that saw him lose his district manager's job and end up as a janitor in the office he once ran. Think about that. That'd break your spirit, wouldn't it? No, didn't. Even after he was forced to retire from that job, he kept working at other jobs right up until he died, because that's just the way he was. Yet for all of that, for all that commitment to hard work and dedication and getting the job done and staying busy, he spent a lot of happy time with his wife and family and appreciated every opportunity to sit back and reflect on life. When I asked him not very long before he died what he thought about it in general, about life in general, about his life in particular, he paused for a moment, and I can still see him. Took a drag from his ever-present cigarette. It was a 2-pack a day, man. Then he said, you know, son, all in all, it's been a pretty good deal. You just work hard, count your blessings, and be happy knowing you're doing the best you can. Work hard, count your blessings, and be happy knowing you're doing the best you can. So those are my 10 lessons learned, and they continue to guide me literally every day, as do the memories of my father and the very similar wisdom he imparted to me, even though I didn't notice it at the time. It took me a long time to realize just how right he really was about almost everything. And it took an experience beyond this life to drive it home. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for everything, and happy Father's Day. I invite you now to get comfortable in your seats. Close your eyes, if you will, and relax. Let go of the tension in your neck. Let it go. Relax. Relax. In your shoulders. Relax. Relax. Let the stress flow down through your body and your legs and out through the soles of your feet. Close your eyes and feel the tension slip away, fading, fading, fading. Open the windows of your mind and let your jumbled thoughts tumble out, and let the cool, invigorating air of blissful peace come in, calming your mind, letting you feel your place within creation, surrounded by peace and love and harmony. You are one with all. as the psalmist said, "This is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice." Thank you.
Well, on behalf of all of you, we thank Jim for a message that was wise, lessons from his dad, lessons we can all live by. And I have to tell my neighbor, who's a huge Blue Jay fan, about not trying to hit the curveballs. Jim, you brought everything we anticipated and more. Thank you very much.
I am alive with the passion and power. I am alive with my purpose in life. I have the strength, the skill, the courage of faith to free the Christ inside. I am alive with the passion and power. I am alive with my purpose in life. I have the strength, the skill, the courage, and faith to free the Christ inside. I am alive with the passion and power. I am alive with my purpose in life. I have the strength, the skill, the courage, and faith to free the Christ inside. I free the Christ inside. I free the Christ to be I am. Alive with my purpose in life. I have the strength, the skill, the courage, and faith to free the Christ inside. I am alive with the passion and power. I am alive with my purpose in life. I have the strength, the skill, the courage, and faith to free the Christ inside. I shall be
We always have an opportunity to make offerings. And in the last couple of weeks, we've changed our method. Not that you can still offer donations through tithing online or by check. Renee and Kate are going to pass the bag to each person and they will pass it along as we used to do. If you've already made an offering, please give the bag to the person at the end of the line. They'll pass it. If you've already made an offering, you just put your hand over the top of the bag. That brings us back to the idea of community, that we are all one. Might take a little longer, but building community takes time, doesn't it? And we all share in our prosperity blessing. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. We do have some special announcements today. And our barbecue and a brief town hall before the barbecue will happen next Sunday. And we're inviting people to make a love offering or $10. Not only is it a chance for us to gather together, and I know that last week Amber put out a little sheet inviting people to bring donations of food. I don't see Amber here, but the sheet is probably here. So please make a plan to be here next Sunday for our barbecue. There's also a fundraiser, and it will be next Sunday. And Lorraine has been quick to let me know, even if you don't drink beer. Beer Town Certificate has fabulous food. And if you are gluten-free or you prefer plant-based, they have menus that are gluten-free, plant-based. And I'm sure they also have, for people who are more carnivorous, those kinds of food, she said. She said there's lots of patio space. There's a bottle shop. The tickets are $10 or 3 for $20. All of this, again, goes to fundraising for our Unity of London. And so please wouldn't it be fun to win a $100 certificate for Beer Town, and you don't have to drink the beer unless you want to. I'm sure they have other things to drink. Now, our Wednesday music night with Jim Chapman continues, and I hope I'm pronouncing these musicians' names correctly. Next, this coming Wednesday, Purple Hill Night. Well, guess who's going to be here? Wear your purple if you want. The musicians are Guy Melanson, Leo Stock, Carolyn Birchall, and Brent Jones. And Jim brings his usual pizzazz to host this. It's fun, it's invigorating, and it's only $10. And bring a friend. If you have neighbors who are stuck in the house all week, think of inviting them. That would be a real gift of friendship and community. There will be a new book study. Lorraine is facilitating this. It will be on Tuesday mornings at 9:30, beginning July 9th. And the books are available in the bookstore. It's a fascinating book that I've studied often with Rev Lori. And it's called How to Pray Without Talking to God by Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. So please consider joining that book study. And now we join together in affirming one of my favorite prayers. If you don't say this before you go to bed at night or when you wake up in the morning, consider adding it to your affirmations. The light of God surrounds me. I am the light. The love of God enfolds me. I am the love. The power of God protects me. I am the power. The presence of God watches over me. I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Yea, God. And then we join together. This is so communal. We join together and sing our song about peace. says have a great day. If anybody wants to share with Jim, about his message, please come on up.